What a joy that you have found us for this podcast. How exciting it is to think that this spiritual message is going out to people around this planet. Whether your life is working at a peak level or whether it can use some enhancement, have I got the message for you today. So get a piece of paper, get ready to take notes, call a friend, have them watch this podcast also. Then you too can have something to talk about and take it to a deeper level. So enjoy. Here we go. Hey, good morning, Seaside. Gosh, what a joy it is to be here with you today on this morning, in which I'm going to talk about increase. It keeps getting farther and farther behind the hedge back there. That's great. Oh, well, let's see. This morning's message is about the 10 talents. You remember that story from the Bible? Well, I'm going to tell you. If you don't, and if you do, you get to listen. But anyway, Jesus shared the parable that said the kingdom of heaven was much like the Lord who went away for an extended period of time. And he brought in 3 of his servants and said, I need to, give you this. And so he gave to one servant 5 talents. He gave to another servant 2 talents, and he gave to the last servant 1 talent, and he went away for however long he went away. And so the first servant who had the 5 talents went out and started exchanging, and all of a sudden doubled it, and he had 10 talents. The second guy, he went ahead and did the same. He doubled it. He now had 4 talents. And the one who had 1 talent, he took it and he buried it in the ground. He didn't want to lose it. And so after this extended period of time, when the Lord came back, he called his guys in and said, okay, how'd it go? And the first one said, you know what? You gave me 5. I went out. I did some exchanging, and now it's 10. Here's your 10 talents. And the Lord said, wow, that's fabulous. You can keep that. You who can be faithful with a little can now be trusted with much. Enter into the joy of the Lord. Second guy came in. He said, here's my talents. He said, no, go ahead and keep that. You who could be faithful with a little can be now trusted with a lot. Enter into the joy of the Lord. And when the third guy came in, he said, oh, Lord, I know you're a hard man, that you sow where you do not reap, you gather where you have not strewn, and I was afraid, and so I buried it in the ground, and so here's your talent back. And the Lord looked at him and said, you wicked man, you. I could have at least exchanged it and got usury fees for it. Go ahead and take the talent from this guy and give it to the one who has 10 talents. And go ahead and throw him out into the darkness, where there is gnashing of the teeth and where there is weeping. For he who has, it shall be given. And he who has not, it shall be taken away, even that which he has. I think, whoa, that's pretty mean. That's not nice. Taking it from the guy who needs it the most and giving it to the one who has the most. But you know what? When you have that kind of thinking that I am afraid, that I don't know what to do with my talent, and you're burying it in the ground and you're sitting on it, you're in darkness. It is just not working in your life. If you are living in that kind of fear, you are going to be thrown out and you're going to be crying, I assure you, because others are going to be prospering in your life. And so for me, really, one of the driving morals of this story is that the Lord expects an increase. You got that? The Lord expects an increase. You have been given a talent. And it's not that we've all been given the same talents. Some may have gotten 5 talents, some may have gotten 2. But you know what? It is about using what it is you have been given, and it all have been let into the joy of the Lord equally, whether you have 5 or whether you have 2, if you're using your talents. And all of our talents are different. If you're building a cathedral, you need the architects who are able to build draw up the cathedral. You've got those who can lend the money to build the cathedral. You've got the builders in the cathedral. You've got the stone cutters of the cathedral. You've got those who do the road. So all our talents are different. And what is important is that you use the talent you have been given, and the increase will be natural, and it will flow up into your life. Spiritual principle, law of circulation, that is the law of circulation. That is how it works. So if your life isn't working, it's time to figure out how can you get it moving. So I want you to know, here at Seaside, we've been thinking, not that the church isn't working, but as you know, it takes a little bit more than $25,000 a week to operate our spiritual community. And as it says in your program, that's between $16,000 and $17,000 of that on a weekly basis is expected in contributions. And as you read every week, like this week we're in like $9,000 this week of contributions. $7,000 short on that. You put a few weeks together and it begins to add up quickly. So we thought, what can we do? The best way to turn that around is to have you prosper, right? Yes, that's a good idea. To have your life work at a new level. And what can we do to assist you to have your life work at a greater level, but to get you to truly believe and to practice this law of circulation? And we felt the best thing that we could do to assist you was to give you some money. So I'd like to call the ushers forward at this time. And, yesterday we had a yard sale. Is Stephanie here? Stephanie and your hubby and your whole crew, would you stand up? They held a yard sale on the last day. Thank you for sharing your time and talent. They raised a bunch of money. And so what we have done is we have taken the dollars that they have raised, we add some of our tithes to it, and we have put $10 in all these envelopes. And what we want to do is to give you $10 to practice this law of circulation. We're going to give you the $10. We're going to ask you to find ways in which you can increase it with your talent. And on July 1st, bring it back, and we'll see how that turns out. So... there's a lot of things you can do. I'll tell you in a minute. Let me pray over this first, and you can start passing out the money. So it's like a reverse collection. They come up, and I pray over empty baskets, and they fill up. This time I'm praying over full baskets. And there's about $4,000 that we have put here. And I just say thank you, Father, Mother, God, for us having the faith to believe and practicing this spiritual principle. For truly right here in this moment, the presence of God is stirring within our heart and our souls, and we are giving forth this gift. Our life has been blessed, and it's from the richness that we share this blessing with the world. For I know right now that there is an inexhaustible reservoir, and it is about practicing the spiritual principles that we know are true, like the law of circulation, sending forth those blessings that have blessed our life, knowing that it continues to bring blessings to everyone it comes in contact. These dollars that have blessed Seaside, we send them forth and allow them to continue to be blessings in everyone's life, and know that will continue to multiply 10 and 100 times over. We send it forth with joyous expectation, and so it is. Amen. Okay, you can go ahead, give out the money. But, there's things you can do. What we want to do is create the space in our gardens so there can be like a farmer's market, or where you can sell your arts and your crafts. And there are people who've made pots with plants in them, and they took their $10 and bought some and brought it out to the gardens and sold it and multiplied their money that way. We have done it where Betty Covey, who used to run our hospitality, she made these fantastic sweet rolls. And she used to pump the smell into the sanctuary. And then she would take the money for the first week and buy more dough. And by the time she was done, she had raised a whole slew of money. Callie, she took the $10 that we gave out last time, and she has it sitting on her altar. And she looks at that, and it inspires her to go forth. It is what helped inspire her to go create the Wisdom for Life Elementary School. And she gives 30 to 40 hours a week, every week, to help create our Wisdom for Life School. Lots of stories. Jewel Edson, she baked these like chili egg green chili casserole and cut them up into 200 squares, sold them for $5 each, and made a slew. And the band, they took their $10, honest to goodness, they went out and bought a bottle of tequila and sold margaritas to go with the chili green casseroles. I was looking for Annette Swanson. She took her $10, and she was involved with a real estate deal, and it wasn't quite closing. She took her $10, and she said, you know what, God, we're in partnership here. She went ahead and used those $10 to inspire her to write a tithing check on the sale of her property before it sold to Seaside for $10,000. This was last time, not this week. But you can. But I share these so we get your mind working. So I want you to be able to practice this spiritual principle, because I'll tell you what, the nature of man is that we like to hold on. I'm holding on. I'm going to put it in the ground. Oh, you wicked and slothful person. You get thrown out into the darkness. You miss out on the fun. You miss out on the joy. You miss out on the circulation. You miss out on the increase. You miss out on the joy of sharing your God-given talents. Monkeys. Remember the stories how they used to catch monkeys? Out in the jungle, they would cut the top off a gourd, and they would put some monkey treats in the bottom of the gourd. I don't know what a monkey treat is, bananas or M&Ms or something. You know? It's true. And they would put it out there, and a monkey would stick his hand in the gourd. He'd just barely get it by that little part into the fat part of the gourd. He'd grab a hold of the monkey treats, and then he couldn't get his hand out of the gourd. It was stuck. And all of a sudden, his captors would come up. Now, you would think the monkey would let go. But no. He held on, made it very easy for his captors to throw the net on him and capture him. Well, I'd like to tell you it's only monkeys that hold on. But there are some human beings that are afraid to let go of what it is they know. They're afraid to let go of the $10 that was just gifted to them. They're afraid to let their talents be shared in this world and in this life. And I'll tell you what, we have to step into that place of circulation. It's the natural spiritual law. We're trying to prime your pump so you can begin to know through experience how this really does work. You know, if you don't need it, seed it. Well, that was good. I like that. First service didn't get that one. But, you know, but if you don't need it, you can seed it. You know, if you haven't used it in the last year, get rid of it. I should have done that last week before the yard sale. You know, but you keep it going, you keep it moving. One of the assignments in the foundation class, first class, go home, clean out your closets and your drawers. If you haven't used it, let go of it. Do we hold on to things? Take a look at your garage. Monkeys aren't the only ones that hold on to things. But you know, what has been given to you has been given to you for you to bless others. See, that's the thing with your talents. It has been given to you so you can be a blessing. You know, the classic story of Abraham. You know, he was told to take his cattle and his flocks and his families and his cousins and his extended family and go, and he'll be shown this promised land, this beautiful land. They found a beautiful piece of land after months and months of traveling. They set up shop. They started living there. And what they came to recognize is there were too many of them to live off this beautiful piece of land. So Abraham called his nephew Lot and said, you know what? There's too many of us. You know, why don't you take what it is you want and I'll take the rest. And what did Lot do? He said, okay, I'll take that green pasture, the rolling hills, the ones that with the brooks, the river, and the ponds, and you can have the rest. Like the barren desert rest? Now, if I was Abraham, I wouldn't have been too pleased. You know, what would have maybe come up for me is, here I am trying to be good, and somebody has just taken advantage of me. You know, Abraham didn't say, you know what, Lot, you know, I brought you here. You know, I was willing to share, and you're going to take all the good stuff? Nah. Abraham let him have it, and he moved on. And that's when the Lord came to Abraham and said, all that you can see will be yours. For thousands and thousands of hectares or miles or acres or whatever they used back then, the Lord said, I will bless you. I will make your name well known so that you may be a blessing. You got that? I will bless you so you can be a blessing. That's the key here to that story. God is blessing you so you can be a blessing. You have been given your talents, a different talent than the person that is next to you. You have been given that talent so you can increase it in this world so you can be a blessing. So maybe saying, okay, well, God, bring it on. No, you've got to use what it is you have now. Don't say, hey, God, bring on the blessings, then I share. You've got to work with what it is you have and have people say, but Christian, I don't have anything. Oh, you got something. If you don't, what are you giving? What are you sharing? I mean, how many of you were here helping yesterday with the yard sale if you're saying you don't have anything to share at the level your heart desires? Or have you cleaned out your garage and did you share that with the yard sale? You know what? You have got to practice with what you got, because what the Lord said to his servants is, those that can be faithful with a little can be trusted with a lot. Are you being faithful with the little you have been given? Are you putting it into circulation? Are you putting it into play? Can't answer that. There's this prince in Saudi Arabia. Classic story of some of the princes that just have the abundance and the opulence beyond inconceivable measures, had the palaces that all over the place, had the fleet of cars, had the fleet of planes, had it all going on. And what he would do once a month, is he would invite all those that were poor, that were within his area, to come on in and just ask what it is that they wanted that would help him out. And he would go ahead and give them, most of them, a house, a land, a hospital operation, what it is they wanted. Now, did this prince have any idea of this new thought movement, of religious science, of the Seaside Center for Spiritual Living? I'm saddened to say I don't think so. But he was practicing the spiritual principle of circulation, of giving, of moving, of doing. And I know people say, "Oh, man, if I had it, I'd do it too." You've got to do it with what it is you have. You have to be faithful with the little so you can be trusted with a lot. And as we begin to practice, because that is what we're doing, we're practicing, we're being that activity. Not because I'm looking to get back. I mean, that's how it works. You give and it comes back to you multiplied 10 times, 100 times. Those are just numbers to try to punctuate how it works. That is not exactly 10% is how it comes back. 10 times 10 is 100. Those are training wheels. It is about understanding that it comes back to you multiplied many times. You don't give $10 so you can get 100 back. That's dealing. That's wheeling and dealing with God. That is manipulating. That is bargaining. But when you are practicing the law of circulation, with the 10 talents, with the talents you have been given, it begins to increase, begins to multiply. See, the grace of God is upon you. The grace of God has been given to us all. It isn't just held back for the few that are trying to. The grace of God hasn't just been given to a few messiahs along the way. We're told that the rain falls on the just as well as the unjust. The rain falls upon the just as well as the unjust. The sun shines on this side of the street just like the other side of the street. Spirit doesn't give to some and hold back for another. The grace of God, the abundance of God, the sufficiency of God has already been given. And it is about you sharing your talents. It's about you being in that flow that allows it to manifest. I can't imagine God putting apples on only one branch of a tree, saying the rest of the branch, "Oh, you're not worthy." But you've got to practice with what it is you have. And to take that edge and that risk off, we gave you something to practice with. And as we practice, we run into our challenges. We run into our learning experiences. We run into our level of belief so we can be greater than that we can prove the Spirit. See, the big thing with the guy who had his money taken away, he got into blaming God. "Oh, you are mean. You sow where you're not." He got into blaming God. He didn't get into partnership. Actually, the truth is, he was afraid. That was the big thing. "I am afraid because you're a hard man, Lord." And so the fear stopped him. So we will come up to that which will stop us. I get to say, am I afraid? Or am I going to use the talents I have been given to work with what I have to prove the kingdom of heaven is far greater than I could even begin to conceive? In Illusions, Richard Bach writes that every problem comes to you with a gift in its hand. Every problem comes to you with a gift in your hand. And so you get to start where you are at the level in which you're comfortable. And it starts at an early age, and we begin to develop our level of comfort, our expansion, our consciousness. I was with Trevor this week. He's got his level of stuff he has to move through too. This week I took him, finally, to the pancake house that he was asking for last week. And so as we're going out the door, he stuffs his pockets with as many of his little Hot Wheel cars as he can get into his pocket. They're falling out. Come on, Trevor, stick. So we go, he gives him something to play with at the table while we're waiting for the food. And afterwards, we go into the bathroom, and I've got to get his teeth brushed, for school. We're on our way to school. So take him in the bathroom, brush his teeth, wash his hands, and try to get him to go to the bathroom. I get him lined up. I flush the toilet. I'm wiggling in, and one of his cars falls into the flushing toilet, and the car goes, gone so fast, faster than I could get my hand in and pull it out. And that was gross, let me tell you. His car was gone. There was nothing I could do. It happened so fast. That little guy fell on the ground crying. He was so sad. "Daddy, get my blue car. My blue car, Daddy, please. Why? Where's my blue car?" And look on the backside of the toilet for it. And so he's screaming. By this time, somebody's knocking on the bathroom. You know, they want to get into the bathroom. And I drag him out, and he's crying at the top of his lungs in the hallway in the restaurant. So it's just reverberating through the whole pancake house. And I take him outside, and I sit him down. I try to explain that something's happened, that it's going to be okay. You got to go to school, and I assure him that he's got 500 more cars at home. And it just reminds me that no matter where we are on our life's path, whether it may seem small or it may seem large, the energetic around it is just as real and just as significant. But what makes the difference is, what do you do with that? Herb Keebler, the guy who started Southwest Airlines, a lot of fun stories around that. He started it in 1971. After 4 years of being in the courts, the big airlines tried to keep him out of the competition. He started with 3 routes to a couple of the Texas cities. He only had 4 airplanes. He says that the big airlines said that he would be roadkill. Well, they weren't too far off. Just shortly into his endeavor, they were running in the red. The only way they could stay afloat is if he would sell one of his 4 planes and keep the same routes with 3 planes. He said, let's try it. And there began the historical beginning of the 20-minute turnaround. That's where it started. And he went on to do about customer service. He has since gone on. They now have almost 500 planes in their fleet. They do over 3,100 routes in the course of a day to almost 60 cities. They continuously get best customer service, best baggage handling, best on-time record. But you know what? He was at that point that he had to decide, is there something better here? The energy, the fear he had was probably as real as it was for Trevor. Little car and airplane. Car, airplane. Good thing there's no large or small in the mind of God, right? So can you be trusted with the talent you have been given in the face of the difficulties that present themselves? That's about consciousness. It's about consciousness. You could say it again. I said it twice. But are you practicing the presence? Are you consciously courting the presence? Are you consciously hooking up with that divine source in the midst of the problem or the challenge? Friedrich Nietzsche, he said that if it doesn't kill me, it will strengthen me. I like that. If it doesn't kill me, it will strengthen me. So what are you going to do with it? Are you practicing the presence? Are you practicing the presence so you begin to realize it doesn't rest on my shoulders? It doesn't rest on my shoulders to be overly educated or filled with my wisdom, but rather I'm going to practice the presence so it moves here. It moves me. That which is in me is greater than that which is outside of me, and for it to come outside, there has to be circulation. It's true in nature. You look at the ebb and the flow of the tide. You look at our body, the lungs, in and out, blood circulation. If you want to be alive, it is about the law of circulation. This country goes into recession when people begin to hoard. It is about circulation. I'm challenging you to practice with what we gave you and to consciously court that presence and listen to the God presence. What can I do with the talent that I've been given so I'm not burying it in the ground? Matter of fact, what talent can I go unbury out of the ground that I've had tucked away? As you practice the presence and realize it doesn't rest on my shoulders, you begin to hear, you begin to see, you begin to feel things you didn't know before. There's a guy by the name of Paul Hartoonen. True story. Paul Hartoonen was a New Jersey guy. He was a paramedic looking for a way for his big break in life. Paul, after one of his runs, he lived his life in service, giving his things, say, God, give me my break. One day he was sitting home watching a newscast, watching that they were repairing the Brooklyn Bridge. He had an idea. He called the job site and asked if he could talk to the project manager. Talked to the project manager and said, I see you hauling off that lumber. Can I buy it from you? The project manager thought, man, this is great. The guy's going to haul it out of here, give me some money. I'm going to be able to save a lot. Come on down, get it. Paul Hartoonen went down there, took that lumber, and sent it off to a mill and had those beams sliced into 1-inch chips by 1/8 and glued those chips to official certificates, and that read that you now own a piece of the Brooklyn Bridge, and sent this out to the media outlet that a New Jersey man sells the Brooklyn Bridge for $14.95, or a piece thereof. His phone from the media outlets rang off the hook. Hundreds and hundreds of people called, and they just wanted to know what is up here, that you could do this. What is going on? It became a media frenzy. He went on to sell that for $14.95 plus a few dollars shipping and handling, of course. And those throwaway beams turned into $7 million. Paul Hartunian, paramedic, got a divine idea. The ideas are there. There was, at a recent Chicago gift show, a lady was out in front of her booth handing out books. People would stop, they'd look at the title on the book, they would open it up, and they would start laughing. So if you want to know what was in the book, you would go, you'd grab you could take the book, and on the cover of the book, the title of the book is Everything That Men Know About Women by Dr. Alan Francis. There was no Dr. Alan Francis. It was this woman author that was giving these books away. And if you take this book and you open up this book, you come to discover what every man knows about the woman. Every page is blank. 128 blank pages. Sorry, guys. It's not the truth. It's a story. You ask her how business is doing, she'll tell you business is booming, that she ships them out casefuls to women's apparel stores, women's clothing stores. She says, I make these books for 50 cents. I sell them for $1.50. They retail for $2.95, and it is an impulse item at the counter, and I have sold over 1 million books. Without one word inside. Oh, man. I share these stories to let you know that we live in a sea of infinite possibilities. All that the Lord has asked is that we use the God-given talent we have been given, and we will be able to increase. The moral of the story is that the Lord expects an increase. You cannot help but increase in circulation and movement and flow and growth. That is the way it works. But I also share these stories to let you know that it works. I mean, it works, but it's also about heart. I mean, it is about creating success. I mean, Michael Beckwith, as you know, is coming to Seaside. We have sold out 800 tickets already. We have never sold anything out in advance like that. 2 weeks out, it's sold out. That we're now putting up a live feed so people can listen to the softball game next door and watch Michael Beckwith at the same time. It's exciting. There are principles you can use. I'm teaching this class, this 3-week class, how to be a masterful manifester, just about giving the class away. I want you to prosper. I know the success of this church lies on your life working. I want your life to work. I want you to be happy. I want you to be invited into the joy of the Lord. That's kind of biblical sounding, but it's like it doesn't matter who you are as long as you are using what you have been given and what you have in your life now, you are invited into the joy, into the excitement, into the life. See, it's really about the heart. It's not about creating those palaces or manifesting those things. I mean, that's all part of it, but it's about heart. I mean, it's that spirit that makes the difference. There's a beautiful story that ran recently about 2 little twins that were born. And one of them was not doing well at all. It had this chronic heart challenge. It was expected to die a couple days after its birth. Its body pressure and rhythm was just falling drastically. So one of the nurses, trying to save this little baby's life, tried to buck the hospital's policy by trying to get her little brother put in the same incubator with her, which was not allowed. But the doctor finally okayed it. And so they put the little baby boy in with his little baby sister, and somehow, just like being in the mother's womb, that little guy somehow got his arm up onto his sister and wrapped his arm around his little sister. And within a day or two, not knowing why anybody, the heart all of a sudden began to normalize itself. The pressure in the body began to return, as well as the temperature of that little baby. And the story that was run originally had the picture of the little boy having his arm around his little sisters in the incubator, calling it the rescue hug. Now those two children are healthy, viable kids playing in this world. Somebody needs your hug today. Somebody needs your love today. It doesn't take long to share and to give that compliment. You've been given your hands. Your hands are healing hands. Your voice is a healing voice. You are the voice of God. You are that vortex. You are that space for that presence to move through you. And by being devoid in your mind of your needs, of what it is you're trying to get, by being devoid within your consciousness so you have that open space to be a receptive vessel to God, so you can tabernacle with the divine presence. You can know, you can be devoid of yourself so you can be that healing presence in the world in which you live and move and express yourself. It's not about your needs. If you got everything you needed, oh my. Take a look at a little child. You take a little kid into a candy store and say, okay, you can have everything you need. They would be so sick. You would be so sorry. Spirit's not giving us everything we need or we want. If we could just devoid our mind of our selfness, our selfishness, if we can just begin to remember that I've got to play with what it is I have. And what I have is God. I have it all. I have it all now. The grace of God, it's all been given. It's not being withheld. It's not given to one branch instead of another branch. But it comes back to your consciousness. We've been involved in facilitating this wonderful Joel Goldsmith class with our spiritual practitioners about the altitude of prayer. And one of the things Joel Goldsmith shared was how important it is to connect with Spirit. But he said not only for that 20, 30-minute spot of meditation in the course of the day, but he said for 5 or 10 seconds, 20 or 30 times in the course of a day. Say 20 or 30 times, how can I think about God that much? We came up with ideas in class. Every time the phone rings, if you think, hey, God's calling. Every time you look at the computer, oh, Spirit's speaking here. If every time you enter or exit a door, you leave your house, you go to business, you are entering into a holy place. Every time you get out of bed in the morning, this is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in. Every time you go to bed, thank you, God. It is so easy 20, 30 times throughout the course of the day to remember that presence just for 5 seconds. All of a sudden, an hour will not be complete if you don't take time to remember who you are, what it is you have been given. So I can just hear the Spirit saying, I've given you the 10 talents. I'm trusting you with a little. I'm trusting you with the talents that you now have. I'm trusting you with the ability that you now have in your life. Do well with that. For those who can be trusted with a little, I have faith to give them a lot. It's time to share in the Spirit gift. And if you do, you'll be entered into the joy of the Lord. And life will be a song all the way. God bless us. So I'd like to invite the ushers to come forward as we do take our gift from our heart. Again, a lot of heart and soul and passion. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am prosperous now. Hey, I trust you enjoyed that podcast. It was very exciting to be able to create that and to know that there are people like you all around the world that are observing and integrating these spiritual principles into their life. And so if you enjoyed it, what I'd like to do is encourage you to tell a friend or bring several friends together and watch another one of these podcasts. And then afterwards, take some time to talk about the spiritual principles, to talk about the stories and what significance they have and relevance they have in your life. What then happens is it moves to a deeper and deeper level in your world. It becomes real and assists you to create the freedom in your life that your heart and soul so desire. So if you like this, I encourage you to watch it again, but also tune into our website here at seasidecenter.org. There, you can get some of my written material and take a look at it. You can read some of my spiritual prayers. You can even go to our online bookstore and order some of the books. And if you're so moved, what I greatly would appreciate is your financial support, which you could do online at seasidecenter.org. It is support like yours that assists us to be able to continue to do these kinds of gifts for humanity and send it out to the world. Because you know what? We are making a difference with this spiritual message. And because of support like yours, people are being touched in the farthest reaches of this planet, as well as our backyard, more than we could ever begin to realize. So I thank you from the fullness of my heart for making a difference.